Hi. Hi. Howdy. Howdy. See Mr. Arena Star. I just wanted a quick update or something about something quite fascinating. Let's just say this. Stayed up late today, researching, thinking, chilling. I just wanted to do a quick video because, I must have been invited to attend the Houses of Parliament, which is like the government building in the UK. It was an event I had to go to. And I was looking at a painting at the back of this particular room. I could see a painting of a black Moor. A Moor is like a black native Portuguese, Spanish person, basically. They ruled, these Moors came from Africa and they ruled Europe, and they provided civilization to Europe. They provided education, they provided law, those kind of things, basic human rights, law functioning of a society, because Europe was in the dark ages for, I don't know, 800 years or something like that. So they went on a mass building spree in Europe. And this particular painting, when I went to the House of Parliament the other day, I've seen it before and I saw it again. And it's a painting of a black Portuguese Moor, so native Portuguese. Like he's clearly designing the beams of the Houses of Parliament, because if you go inside the Houses of Parliament, they have some amazing beam holding up the building, like amazing wood beam, like the way it's constructed, it's so beautiful. And in the painting, you could see this black man dressed magnificently in Moorish outfit, with the hat, the jewelry, the long cape, like that kind of like typical Moorish. And he's like brown, Morano brown, like brown like me, like tan brown, and he has like the old-fashioned hair, and he has the hat, and he's telling them how to like build a building. And then so that painting was there, and then at the bottom it says 1393 when he was painted, like showing how old the building was and when it was built. And then there happened to have been some native black Portuguese people that was invited on that day, and they introduced themselves and they said they were black Portuguese. So, and a lot of the times when you think of black Portuguese people, you think of the colonies that Portuguese went to. So you think that they get their black people from there and that's how they ended up in Portugal. That's not the case, because there were native Portuguese people living in Portugal for many, many years. And that painting, but obviously that history has been slowly hidden, and they kept telling them, oh, you're slaves from the empire, from the Portuguese empire. And like, that's like the biggest lie. I honestly believe that the native Portuguese, the black native Portuguese that live in Portugal, are not slaves. I believe that they are native black Portuguese. And once upon a time, they were ruling Spain and France. And not only that, they were ruling the whole of Europe. And they were going around like controlling, obviously. But what happened was Europe, I think around the 1500s, after the Spanish Armada, because I've done my history, they all, like all the white people of Europe, banded together and said, let's push out the Moors out of Europe. So they literally banded together. And I have a book So I think the first time they did it was with the crusade to get rid of the black Moors, and that was like in the Middle Ages. Then they did it again during the 1500s, Spanish Armada, when they once and for all kicked out these black Moors out of Europe. But I think these black Moors are actually native indigenous Europeans. And I know that Moors are not only Muslim, there are Christian Moors, but the Muslim Moors are the famous ones. So actually, they could also be English. I mean, they could also be Christian and Muslim. So these people invited at the event looked exactly like the guy in the painting. One of them looked like a bloody relative, like her nose, the way her nose was shaped, her color, even their hair, the physique. You couldn't tell by looking at the painting it was one of their people. And I said, hold on. I said, look at the picture at the back. That's actually your people. Like, look when it was painted. And you should have seen how surprised they were. They took pictures of themselves with this black Portuguese Moor. And they were so surprised. Like, you don't want somebody knowing their history because you don't understand the mind F that they've been doing on the black Portuguese people, like the amount of brainwashing, like that exactly what they've done in Brazil. Their level of racism is a different, horrible type of racism where they lied about their history. And I was there telling them right in their face, no, you were not slaves. You were the rulers of Europe. You are the people that helped build this magnificent palace. You're saying, wow, but really it was your people who helped build it, construct it. And that was at the time when they were ruling Europe. And the painting, the evidence was just there staring at them. These paintings had been hidden, had been destroyed when they were when 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 another crusade took place in England at the time, which was the Reformation, when they got rid of all the artifacts, the Catholic art, the black images of the Madonna and things. There was another. So basically, that took place, the Reformation, and then you had the Renaissance, which is another form of whitewash, which is painting all the classic paintings of historical days and times of the Bible, doing new paintings in white. That's what the Renaissance is all about. It's all about whitewashing the characters and putting themselves in these historic times of the earth, times of like Greeks and Roman myths, painting white people in it. That is what the Renaissance is. I feel like, every so many days, every like generation, every certain generation, they come back and do a whitewash to put themselves in history and erase all forms of black excellence. And the Moors were totally wiped out of Europe. They're pushed out, but they still celebrate the day that they defeated the Black Moors by walking around with blackface. Europeans still celebrate that day, and also they celebrate their nation by having the native blacks as their coat of arms. So you'd see that like different European nations will have like a coat of arms of a black person, and that's like the native person of that particular region. And you see them, like you see what their original people would have looked like, and they remember them through the crests, these crests. And if you've looked at a lot of old paintings, if you look at them, a lot of these Moors were living in castles. They were protecting, like they literally lived in castles and tried to fight off barbarians from coming in. Like there's been a lot of paintings like that. There were always knights, on horses. So they did a whole like civilization spree in Europe to prevent them being so barbaric. But this, they don't want to be reminded of that, so they've hidden all that knowledge, all that history's been hidden, whitewashed. But this particular painting is hidden from public. If you only happen to come to that room, that's the only time you'll notice it's there. And you should have seen like the happiness in the Portuguese people's faces that happened to have been at that event. And these are like doctors, but the mind f that has been played in what they've done to them. Like they were speaking their language, and the only thing that separates us black people with the black Portuguese and the Brazilians is the language, but they still face the same anti-blackness, the same racism. Like they're still like fighting it, by embracing their African heritage, like you openly see them embrace their African heritage. I've done videos in the past about Black Brazilians. I've done live streams, and I love the fact, that they're having a whole Black Lives Matter movement in their language. And I just find them so fascinating. And it's nice to see that the Portuguese, the Black Portuguese, doing the same thing. Another thing, I absolutely love the Cape Verdean culture. Um, they're also Moors. But again, I've seen on social media some Cape Verdean person saying how, they're descendants of slaves that the Portuguese sold. That's a complete lie. You need to do your research. You were Moors. Your people were in America way before them. You were trading with the Native Americans way before. You were like your great people. Don't let them change your history, because I've seen the change in the grown people's faces when they looked at their fellow countryman, like in the painting, something painted so old. Like I'll never forget how happy and like how proud they felt. And they said, I knew we were not slaves. Like, come on. The painting just showed it all. Like it showed the Moor in magnificent jewels. You cannot tell me that that man's a white man. He was not. They clearly painted him brown. So it's one of the last few remaining paintings that hasn't been tampered with, and they could clearly see it was a black man. It looked like them. The facial features, everything looks like the black Portuguese I saw the other day. Who knows? He might even be a descendant. But I just cannot stand white supremacy, like what it's done to the world. Like, and just like telling people like they're slaves and changing the history. You need to be like, no, no, mate, we're not slaves. I know what we are. Our people are resilient. They always fight back. I don't believe it. I think it's just a lie. Honestly, it's like they did the same thing with the Native Americans, the Black Americans. They told them they're slaves, but I actually think that they're indigenous Black people. Um, and I just think that they definitely know something. But anyway, I just thought I'll do a quick video.